My name is Stephanie Bermudez. I'm a policy advisor at the International Institute for Sustainable Development in Canada. And it's my greatest pleasure to be here for the first time in your beautiful country. So today I will go deeper into the topic of voluntary sustainability standards in Africa and explore their practices and impacts. And the findings I will show today are a result of the work at the State of Sustainability Initiatives project, which I work with and that I have the honor to represent today. Well, so I just want to share first this quote from a report from the OECD, which says, learning lessons from the crisis implies adopting a comprehensive approach to resilience that further integrates sustainability considerations in global value chains. And I think this quote summarizes well what has been said today throughout all the presentations and the dialogues. So it means that sustainability should be at the core of the operations of all actors in food value chains. But it also means that there are tools out there that can help companies in the private sector, producers, voluntary sustainability standards also, to minimize the risks of global chain disruptions. And second, to minimize the environmental, social, and governance impacts of these disruptions. So in this presentation, we will see very briefly about how can voluntary sustainability standards or eco-labels can support sustainable development outcomes in Africa specifically, the opportunities and challenges. So just briefly saying that the International Institute for Sustainable Development is a Canadian and award-winning independent think tank, and we have the mission to accelerate solutions for a stable climate, sustainable resources, and fair economies. And at the team of State of Sustainability Initiatives, we advance sustainable and inclusive value chains by providing research, dialogue, and strategic advice to decision makers, but also to private sector actors about these sustainability standards and other supporting measures. So I am pretty positive that most of you know about the voluntary sustainability standards or eco-labels or eco-certifications, but they specify requirements for producers, traders, manufacturers to demonstrate that sustainable practices have been applied through product value chains. They can be private and they can be public as well. Some examples of public certifications are, for example, the EcoMark label, which is operated by the ARSO, which is the African Organization for Standardization. That's an example. Another one is the EAOPS, which is the African Organic Product Standard for the Eastern Africa region. So those are examples of voluntary sustainability standards in the public sphere. They have grown since the 1990s. So in 2020, only in Kenya, there were more than 40,000 organic producers, processors, and exporters. So the main elements you already know about it. So they require production practices and criteria to respect and implement over time. They also have specifications on traceability, on verification systems, and labeling and claiming. So what we found in our research is that these standards can actually help farmers by in different areas, for instance, by protecting resources, soil conservation and health, promoting workers' health and safety, promoting association of farmers, and also the management of pests, chemicals, and waste, like by, for instance, integrating pest management systems. So how they can contribute actually to advance sustainability goals in the continent. So we have done a research of voluntary sustainability standards in East Africa, and we have found that they actually have the potential to contribute to advance agricultural policy goals at national and regional levels, for instance, at the East African Community or the COMESA levels. We found that actually they can support achieving 3 main goals or policy objectives, which are increasing productivity, boosting intra-regional trade, and building climate resilience. But how they can support these 3 goals? For instance, in increased agricultural productivity, they can, farmers that comply with these standards can access to improved agricultural inputs and training. They are trained on the responsible use of seeds and varieties, and they also comply with national regulations. They also help to build climate resilience by, for instance, using water resources efficiently, integrating agroforestry practices, and ecosystem restoration and rehabilitation. And finally, they can actually enhance intra-regional trade by integrating pest management and disease control, and the alignment with product-specific standards like sanitary and phytosanitary measures. But of course, there are challenges for their implementation, and this doesn't come without these limitations at global level and in Africa. And we have found that one of the challenges, of the main challenges in Africa specifically, is the lack of awareness and political commitment for these standards. There is also a low demand for standard compliant products in the region due to the price sensitivity. So these more sustainable products are perceived as more expensive, so there is a low demand. Third, is there a lack of price incentives and access to finance products. And also there are constraints to access to standards like a startup investment or certification cost that is difficult to maintain for farmers in some cases. So we provide some recommendations to better use these tools as a part of an ecosystem, and here you have some examples of these recommendations. And first is the political commitment to adopt voluntary sustainability standards, like, for instance, formalizing the recognition and collaborate among not only locally, but also at the regional level. Also, establishing supporting actors and services for farmers, like access to information and training, production practices, markets, access to finance, diversification, and value addition. Also, there is a need to stimulate market demand and create direct links with buyers, like, for instance, paying direct premiums for environmental practices that give results. Also structure local value chains. That's very important to create connection, technology, and this is very important, new business models. So reward farmers for positive environmental results is very important, as well as establish standard-focused investment products like certification bonds, or develop preferential investment or loan programs to farmers that actually have access to certifications. And for voluntary sustainability standards, one of the recommendations is to adapt these systems to local context, like versions targeting smallholders, more flexibility in their criteria, or increasing the number of certification bodies, private certification bodies and public certification bodies in these countries. So I just want to finish with some food for thought. And I want to say that Kenya and the region in general has the potential to position itself as a global example of integration of voluntary sustainability standards, or eco-labels, and related initiatives, not only to improve all the dimensions of sustainability across domestic value chains, at the environmental, social, or economic level, but also this is an opportunity to increase sustainable trade at the intra-regional level. Of course, this will also lead to greater access to key export markets that demand for this, or that are increasingly integrating sustainable considerations or requirements in trade policy. So, as many of you know, the proportion of the African participation in global trade is very low, and the volumes of total trade remain at 3% for global trade and 15% for intra-regional trade. So this needs to change, and there is a great opportunity to do it well by deepening regional integration, strengthening regional efforts, while integrating sustainability initiatives, like voluntary sustainability standards, for instance, to reduce dependency on imports and generate more value. So we celebrate many efforts that are going on towards more sustainability in value chains, but we think that it's important to do more to generate value addition, access to climate finance, and new business models that go beyond the traditional ones, with innovative strategies to mitigate environmental impacts from agricultural operations, while bringing positive results that can be quantifiable. And voluntary sustainability standards can help with this, to monitor results that can be verified and quantifiable. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening.